Saram Cheva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nasta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Tadadaja Samo Bhavo Kamalo Bhadayaschaye Chita Itarana Vidam Stikvam Sattve Prasiddhati Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayam Takstu Bhadani Vidunati Shahit Satam Evam Prasana Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana Mukti Sangha Sajayate Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Chidyante Sabra Samsaya Shiyante Tashikarmani Drista Evat Manishware Maya Sakta Manakparta Yogam Yudchan Madasrayam Asamsayam Samagramam Yata Gyasya Sitat Shinu Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Kunti or Prita, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So this is what happens when we hear Bhagavad Gita. We can know Krishna. And we can be free of any doubts about the existence of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what happens when we hear Bhagavad Gita from a proper source, or Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so yesterday we were discussing, we were going over previous things that we learned about epistemology and then how to attain perfection. And the subject yesterday was the difference between real science and philosophy and junk science and philosophy. There's a major difference. And Prabhupada says, as long as human society works on the basis of false material identification, all the so-called advancement of science and philosophy are simply useless. Ouch. So, what does he mean by the false material identification? As long as society works on the basis of false material identification. Who wants to explain? What is working on the basis of false material identification? Who wants to explain that? Yes, Davis.
Working on the pretext that I am this body and this is the sum and substance of all things in life. That everything in life should be directed towards gratification of that body.
Yes, perfect. So when we think my real identity is this body, and we accept all the false designations of the body. Okay, now, here's something very important. You want to write this down. This is the first thing we're learning today. The difference between substance, S-U-B-S-T-A-N-C-E, and category, C-A-T-E-G-O-R-Y. This is a very important philosophical principle. The difference between substance and category. It's something that's completely misunderstood in Western philosophy due to Aristotle. He, as they say in English, screwed it up. Although he's supposed to be one of the greatest philosophers. Okay, so right now, the first thing we're going to learn today is the difference between substance and category. Now, what does that mean? The fundamental substance of everything is called Brahman, which means the full concept of Brahman has to be understood. So, okay, first point in understanding the difference between substance and category. The real substance is Brahman. B-R-A-H-M-A-N. Now, what does Brahman mean? Brahman means Brahma Jyoti, Paramatma, and Bhagavan Krishna. That's what it really means. And sometimes Brahman can refer to just the Brahma Jyoti. But the real full meaning of Brahman is just like, if someone says, oh, I know Advait. He's an arm. Well, does that mean I know Advait if I just know his arm? So someone says, can you paint me a picture of Advait? I said, yeah, and I paint a picture of his arm. Does that represent Advait? No. So that's when people say, oh, the Mayavadis say, oh, the absolute truth is Brahman, and they mean only the light. So it's like saying, the absolute truth about Advait is his arm. So that's completely incomplete. It's a complete incomplete. It's totally incomplete. So the real meaning of Brahman is the Brahma Jyoti, Paramatma, and Bhagavan Krishna. That's the full meaning of Brahman. But sometimes in certain contexts, Brahman can refer only to the Brahma Jyoti. But you can never separate the Brahma Jyoti from who? From Krishna. Devotees know that. Mayavadis don't know that. Okay, so this Brahman, let's see, conception. Brahman. I'm going to show you where it is in the Bhagavad Gita, this full conception of Brahman. So if we say the real substance is Brahman, then what is the category? The category is all the qualities related to the substance. One second. So, if Brahman is the substance, then the whole material creation is the category. That means that the origin of everything in the material world is Krishna. Therefore, he's the real substance. And everything in the material world is the qualities of Krishna. Now, if we look at the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, where it says that Rasoham Apsukonteya. So that means Krishna says, I'm the taste of water. That's category. That's a description of Krishna. Then he says, Rasoham Apsukonteya, Prabhasmi Sasisurya, and I'm the light of the sun and the moon. That's also category. That's a description of Krishna. And then it says, Sabde ke Purusham Nisu. He says, Pranava Sarvavede Su, and I am the syllable Om in the Vedas. That's another description of the qualities of Krishna, right? And then it says, Sabdeke Puranam Purusham Nisho. I'm ability in man and sound in ether. So Krishna is the substance, and that every thing described in that verse is category. So some people, if someone says, oh, I've never seen God and I don't think I'll ever see God, that person is a nonsense. If you read Bhagavad Gita, you'll learn how to see Krishna all the time. As long as you understand that He's the original substance and everything else is category. Taste of the water, light of the sun and the moon, ability in man, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras, and like that. So when it says Punya Gandha Prativyam Cha, I am the fragrance, original fragrance of the earth, that's category. That's characteristic of Krishna, or that's a quality of Krishna. So anyone who says I don't see God is a complete nonsense. They're completely in ignorance. God is everywhere present in the creation. The creation of the material world and the whole spiritual world is the category, the description or qualities of the Lord, or the properties of the Lord. Nothing is independent of Krishna. So everything you say and see in this world is related to Krishna. It's all category. His properties. Taste of water, light of the sun, the original fragrance of the earth, ability in man, the Vedic mantra Om. So when you read the 7th chapter and the 10th chapter and the 11th chapter, it teaches you how to see Krishna everywhere in the material creation. The whole material creation, the whole cosmic world is category. These are all the properties of Krishna. Okay? So, does anyone want to explain to me now what is the difference between what is substance and what is category, besides Davis? Yes? Yes. Yes. Anybody else want to add something to it? Okay, so this is an extremely important point to understand substance and category. Yeah.
So basically category is all the qualities related to the substance. So Krishna
Or qualities or properties. Yes.
properties related to the substance, so that means that since everything is manifested from Krishna, so this is all already, and people who deny God,
And people would say, I don't see God. I never saw God.
so
Those are really nonsense people. Deep in the abyss of ignorance. You know what an abyss is? A-B-Y-S-S, abyss. What? A what? A cess. What's a cess? It's a new word in English you made up. An abyss. What's an abyss? Anybody know? Yes. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, an endless pit, an endless hole. You fall in it, you never get to the end of it. That means you never get out. Right? Yes. So they're in the endless abyss of ignorance, How can they say they can't see God? God is present everywhere. Krishna is present everywhere in the material world. In fact, I think we wrote this down the other day. The material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world. Write that down. The material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world. The material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world. Probably if you're going to listen to class, you should bring a notebook, take notes. Are you going to remember anything I'm saying? Huh? No, you walk out of here and someone will say, what did he talk about? I say, oh, it was a great lecture. What did he say? Well, he talked about Krishna. I said, yeah, okay, we know you talked about Krishna, but what did he say about Krishna? I don't remember anything. No, if you're gonna, this is not, an entertainment class. We come here and get entertained, and then we go home without remembering anything. You take notes. There's another. You don't take notes, you won't remember anything. Okay, what does that mean? The material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world. What's a dictionary? Yeah, sure. That's not a dictionary, though. Yeah.
Oh, so it meant
Stop saying like. And stop saying
The material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world means
Stop saying
So
Stop saying like.
The material world is a reflection of the material, it's a reflection of the spiritual world.
Okay, well, what does that mean? Now you have two things you have to explain. The material world is a dictionary of the spiritual world, and you introduced another point. The material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So now, what does both of those statements mean? What do both of those statements mean? Stop saying, ugh. Okay, let me give you a hint. When you look at the material world, does it tell you anything about the spiritual world? First of all, tell me, what is a dictionary?
It tells you what words mean.
Yes, it tells you what words mean, right? So, if the material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world, what does that mean then? If it's a dictionary of the spiritual world? I stopped saying like.
Means
Yes, Kishore. Did you raise your hand? Or you were scratching your head? Okay. Yes.
I don't know exactly, but I can correlate to the teachings. Like we are seeing.
Stop saying and like.
Sorry. We are seeing love in this world, so it's, we can see the same love is there as well, but in the different. Here we have a material things we are loving, but there we are not loving for our enjoyment, but for the Krishna's pleasure.
Yes. In other words.
We are seeing here like love or serving attitude.
You said it again.
So, love, serving attitude, service. So these things are already there, but not for our enjoyment, but for Krishna.
Yes. Yes.
The dictionary is something which contains the meanings of the words, but those words can be used in different ways, different things. So basically, material world is the dictionary of the spiritual world means that there are things which are existing in material world. It can reflect what it would mean in spiritual world as well, or it's a reflection. I mean, it's not necessarily.
Is the reflection the real thing?
Real thing. It's not.
Is it the real thing? Is a reflection a real thing?
No.
No. But it indicates that there is a real thing.
Like as we said, love has real truth in different form, while in the spiritual world it's real love.
Yes, exactly. So if you look carefully at the material world, you can understand that there are things that look the same, but they're not exactly the same in the spiritual world. In the material world, everything is based on lust. And in the spiritual world, everything is based on pure love. The difference between lust and love is the object. In the spiritual world, the object of love is Krishna. In the material world, the object of love is my body or somebody else's body or some object, you see. So it all depends on the object. Krishna is the original substance. So everything in the spiritual world is directed toward Krishna. And in the material world, we only see reflections of what's in the spiritual world. So we take the reflection to be a real thing. Like, for example, I can see the shadow of my hand, right? I can see it right here, the shadow. So when I move my fingers, the shadow fingers move. You want to make a shadow of your hand. Just put your hand up. You see your shadow? Okay. When your fingers move, does the shadow fingers move? Yeah. Right. Now, if someone comes and says, "Oh, hello, Harivilas, I want to shake your hand," and he tries to shake the shadow, and he says, "Oh, where's your hand? Well, there's no hand there." You see, it's just the shadow of the hand. So, when we look for love in the material world, it's like shaking hands with the shadow. You don't get the real thing. It's just the shadow simply indicates that there is a real thing somewhere else. You see? You understand? Therefore, people don't really attain real love in the material world as long as they mistake the shadow of the real thing as the real thing. Right? So, as long as people, like for example, you're all getting an education, right? Let's say in public school. But in public school, if you say everything comes from God, people say, "Oh, that's your religion." That's not what we learn here. That's your religion. You see? So, that's why Prabhupada says that as long as human society works on the basis of false material identification, all the so-called advancements of science and philosophy are simply useless. So all that education that you get from people who believe that the substance is the body is useless. It will not help you understand reality. It will not help you understand what is the purpose of life. It will not help you achieve the purpose of life. As long as human society works on the basis of false material identification, all the so-called advancements of science and philosophy are simply useless. So, when a scientist discovers that the chemical composition of water is H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen atom, right? Did they actually discover something? Or was it already there? Yes.
They did discover anything, they just trying to name something which already exists and put it there.
Yeah, and they want to get the credit for it themselves. You see? It's already there. So how is it a real discovery? Just like Columbus discovered America. Did he discover America? It was already there. He just stumbled on it by the way, by accident. He was not looking for America. He was looking for India. But he thought, maybe I'll go the other way. Then everyone, Marco Polo went east, I'll go west. So Marco Polo went to India overland. You ever hear of Marco Polo?
Yeah.
He went to India overland, going east. So Columbus thinking, well, let me go west and get to India. But he didn't get to India. He discovered what's called today the West Indies. Why do they call it the West Indies?
It's west of India. I mean, it's,
Well, he was looking for India, but he didn't find India. So whatever he found, he called the West Indies. It's not the West Indies, right? Yeah, all the Caribbean islands are called the West Indies. Look it up on the internet. You see, so if some scientist discovers that the chemical formula of water is H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms connected to 1 oxygen atom, has he actually discovered it? No, it's already there. Already somebody made it before him. Right? Now, you know how much water there is in this universe, in this world, right? So, can you produce that much hydrogen in a factory? Can you produce that much hydrogen and oxygen in a factory? No, it's impossible. You see? Like, let's say you want to make water, so you would have to buy some hydrogen, you would have to buy some oxygen, and then you would have to add some heat to it, and this thing and that thing, and then get them to join, the 2 hydrogens join to 1 oxygen. But you wouldn't get all H2O, you get some H2O2, you would get some H2O3, you would get some H only, you know, I mean, you wouldn't just get H2O unless you really were very, very careful about how you combine the hydrogen and oxygen, right? So, therefore, what people do nowadays is they discover something, they put their name to it. Just like, let's say, Advait discovered some mathematical formula that no one ever found before, right? And he puts Advaita's equation. Okay, now that equation explains, let's say, how to make H2O. So, is it Advaita's equation, or do you find the equation that Krishna used to make the H2O originally? Yeah. Yeah, you see. So, most people want to usurp the creativity of Krishna. You are USP. You know that word? Usurp. What does usurp mean? You are USP. Yeah. Yeah, you seize something and take possession of it. Something that belongs to someone else. Look up the word. Did you find West Indies? What did it say?
West Indies is Caribbean basin origin of North Atlantic Ocean in Caribbean, and this was discovered by Christopher Columbus.
There you go. It's a Caribbean, what was it? Caribbean basin. That means that part of the Atlantic Ocean where all the Caribbean islands are. And then they're called the West Indies. So like there's Barbados, there's Puerto Rico, there are all these islands.
And it also says that first the voyage of Christopher Columbus to America, European began to use it from West Indies, East Indies of South Asia and Southeast.
Yes. He was looking for the East Indies. He found some land and some islands, and he called them the West Indies. In other words, he failed in his attempt, but he tried to make it seem as if it was a wonderful failure because he found the West Indies. It's not the West Indies. There's only East Indies. There's no West Indies. It's just like you have let's say you have a doll that's missing a nose, and you named your doll the Beautiful Nose. Does it have a nose? No. So what does that mean, beautiful nose?
It's ironic.
It's just a euphemism.
Yeah.
EUPHMEISM. Euphemism. What's a euphemism? EUPH. I don't know, I think I misspelled it. EUPH. EMISM. EUPHEMISM. Euphemism. What's a euphemism?
A mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt when referring to something unpleasant or embarrassing.
So, the doll that has no nose, I named Beautiful Nose. Why? Because it's not nice to say the doll has the noseless doll. So that sounds a little harsh, the noseless doll. So to soften it up, I say, oh, my doll's name is the Beautiful Nose. And so that's called a euphemism. You tone down something that sounds harsh. Like, for example, there's the word massacre, right? Massacre means you kill, people have been killed massively, right? A genocide. So instead of saying massacre, some politicians say transfer of population. So during the transfer of population, everyone was killed. But you don't get that sense, you just say, oh, transfer of population, oh yeah, some people went from one place to another. That sounds, innocuous, it sounds, gentle and nice, But during the transfer, it just so happens that everyone was murdered. So that's called a massacre. Okay, so, usurp, what does usurp mean? Yeah.
Position of power and importance illegally or by force.
Yeah, you take something that belongs to someone else by force. So people are trying to usurp the creativity of Krishna by claiming they discovered something that Krishna made and putting their name on it. It's like, Einstein's theory. All he did was discover something that was already there. E equals mc squared. Why is it Einstein's theory? It's Krishna's theory. It's not a theory, it's Krishna's fact. Okay. So Brahman is the substance and the cosmic world or material creation is the category. And if you look at the verse 7th chapter, verse number 6, and I'm sorry, verse number 8, yeah, verse number 8, verse number 9, verse number 10, verse number 11, all of those explain how to see Krishna in the material world. So write this down. Krishna is the substance, and category is the properties of Krishna or characteristics of Krishna. And they're explained in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, verse 8, 9, 10, 11. And then, what? Yeah. Krishna is the substance, and categories are the properties of Krishna, or the qualities of Krishna, by which you can recognize him in the material world. So Krishna is a substance, and the material creation is the category. And category means the qualities of Krishna, or the properties of Krishna, by which you can see him. So, therefore, when it says Rasoham Apsakonteya, Krishna says, I am the taste of water. So that's category of Krishna, a property of Krishna. And it says, I am the light of the sun. That's another property of Krishna, or quality. And he says, I am the syllable Om in Vedic mantras. That's another property of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 8th verse. And then it continues further. Almost the entire 10th chapter continues to explain how to see Krishna in the material world. And then almost the entire 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna how he can see him in the material world. So anyone who claims, oh, I don't see God, they're complete nonsense. They have no knowledge at all. No, they're completely steeped in ignorance, or in the abyss of profound ignorance, as you could say. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita explains the science of God, and explains how you will see Krishna, or God, and understand everything. This one book. And that's if you don't misinterpret it. If you interpret the Bhagavad Gita, so what does it mean to understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, as opposed to interpret Bhagavad Gita? Who can explain the difference between understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, or interpret Bhagavad Gita? What's the difference?
Understanding
Yeah.
is that who know about your knowledge as who you are and what is the connection between God and you. And interpretation is talks about merely body, about your body, but not actual knowledge.
Yeah, interpretation means you speculate. You make something up that's not true. And the difference between bona fide knowledge of who Krishna is you accept knowledge from Krishna himself. How do you accept knowledge from Krishna himself? Well, he spoke to Arjuna, explaining to him who he is. You have one book in which God is speaking about himself, explaining everything about himself. And then, so Bhagavad Gita is Krishna speaking about himself, and Srimad Bhagavatam are the great acharyas speaking about Krishna. Okay? So you have two books that are Krishna, pure Krishna Katha. One is Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking about himself, and the other is Srimad Bhagavatam, where the pure devotees are speaking about Krishna. Yeah.
Isn't it called something like that, like in Sanskrit, something talking about this? What does it mean when
Shruti.
Shruti and
Smriti. So Shruti is God speaking about himself, and Smriti is God's devotees speaking about him. Yeah. No, they're both good. Is Srimad Bhagavatam better than Bhagavad Gita? No, they're both good. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study, and Srimad Bhagavatam is more complete. But Bhagavad Gita is giving the substance, and Srimad Bhagavatam is giving the category. They're both explaining the science of who God is. But Bhagavad Gita is like philosophy and science, and Srimad Bhagavatam is description and history. Bhagavad Gita is philosophy and science, Srimad Bhagavatam is history and description of who is Krishna. So both are necessary. Just like I can say, oh, well, Davis is a student at Central Washington, is it college or university? University, yeah. But he's a nice guy. Right? So the first statement is related to substance, some kind of substance. You're a student, you know. The second thing is a quality that you have. You're a nice guy. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is science and philosophy of who is God, and Srimad Bhagavatam is history and description of who is God. Or Bhagavad Gita is the substance, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the category. Okay. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says Janmadasya Yata, Janmady, Janmadi Asya, A-S-Y-A. So Janmady, and then second word, Asya, A-S-Y-A. And Krishna describes, or Bhagavatam describes Krishna as the source of everything. S-O-U-R-C-E, the source of everything. In other words, everything is coming from Krishna. So this is one definition of God. Janmadasya, or Janmadiyasya. Janmady, A-S-Y-A. That means that everything is coming from Krishna. That means he's the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. And the spiritual world is his expansion. The spiritual world was never created. It's always existed. But the material world is created and destroyed. So therefore Krishna is the source of all creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. Okay? Now what do the scientists say, though, the material scientists?
They say that creation is by Big Bang, and maintenance they are helping to maintain, and annihilation, I think they are trying to solve the puzzle. They are yet to solve.
No, they're going to annihilate with atomic bombs. So, can somebody create, maintain, and destroy the material world? No. Only the Creator can create, maintain, and destroy it. No one else can create, maintain, and destroy it. Yes?
Prabhupada even says in Bhagavatam that nuclear energy can actually, like their attempts to destroy the world with nuclear bombs, they won't actually be able to do it.
Yeah, they can't destroy. Yes. You can't destroy something that you didn't make. You can only destroy something that you made. Mm-hmm. Like if you build a big building, you can destroy it. But they didn't make the earth, so how are they going to destroy it? They don't have the power to destroy it. The scientists say that everything was produced from inert matter. I-N-E-R-T, M-A-T-T-E-R. Everything was created from inert matter. Now this word inert, I-N-E-R-T, is a very interesting word. Look it up. I-N-E-R-T. So today we learned inert, we learned usurp, we learned euphemism, we learned what? Access. A-C-C-E-S-S? What? No, abyss. A-B-Y-S-S, not access. Abyss. So this is, you have to make your own lexicon. What's a lexicon? Lexicon is a dictionary. It's another word for dictionary. You have to make your own lexicon. You should have like some pages in the end of your book where you write down my lexicon. Make a few pages at the end of the book. Make at least 6 pages at the end of your book. 6 means 12, right? Because that's 2 sides. Right? My lexicon. L-E-X-I-C-O-N. What? Yes.
Inert means lacking the ability or strength to move.
Yes. In other words, it doesn't move. It's motionless, right? Look up lexicon. L-E-X-I-C-O-N. What's a lexicon?
The vocabulary of person, language, or branch of knowledge.
Yeah, it's words, basically. So you're going to have my lexicon. This is my new vocabulary. So let's go over the words. 1, abyss. A-B-Y-S-S. A bottomless pit. Abyss. A-B-Y-S-S. Second word that we learned today. Usurp. U-R-U-S-P, is that the way you spell it?
U-S-U-R-P.
Oh, U-S-U-R-P. Usurp. Usurp. U-S-U-R-P. Is Omar sleeping, or is he just leaning on his pencil there?
I'm writing down.
You're writing down, but you have no light. How can you see? You can see in the dark?
No.
You are an ulu. You know what an ulu is? An owl. You can see in the dark. Okay, so abyss, usurp, U-S-U-R-P. Third word was euphemism, E-U-P-H-E-M-I-S-M. Is that the right way to spell it?
E-U-P-H-E-M-I-S-M.
Yes, and it means?
The substitution of a mild, indirect.
Okay, using a mild meaning word to replace a harsh meaning word. Like, instead of saying, oh, there was a massacre in Syria, you say, oh, there was a transfer of population in Syria. And by the way, everyone died during the transfer.
Transferring bodies, transmigration.
So the transfer of population is a euphemism for the word massacre. Massacre has a harsh meaning. It means that people are mercilessly killed. A huge number of people are merciless. Just like yesterday, there's a town named Fua in in Syria that was surrounded by the Syrian rebel army for like the last 5 years. And they finally worked out a deal where towns that are surrounded by the Syrian army could be evacuated to territory held by the rebels, and towns that are surrounded by the rebel army could be evacuated so that they would live in areas where the Syrian army controls, right? So they worked this deal out between Iran and Qatar. Qatar is representing the rebels. Iran is representing the Syrian army. Okay. So then people got on buses, and they were guaranteed safe passage after being besieged for 5 years. Besieged means they were surrounded by this rebel army, right? And somehow or other they survived for 5 years. And in the government parts of Syria, certain rebel towns were surrounded by the Syrian army, and many people died of starvation because they couldn't get water and food, you know. So anyway, everyone's promised safe passage. So the people in Fua, who are mainly Shia Muslims, they get into these buses, and as they're leaving the town, there's a huge explosion, blows up the bus, and all the people in the bus, 100 people in the bus died. Their bodies were blown to pieces. You see? So that was a transfer of population, but it just so happened that a lot of people were massacred. Same thing happened in Pakistan and India. Before there was all just India, but then after India's freedom from the British, Muslims in Pakistan said, we want our own country, we don't want to be part of India. So unfortunately Gandhi agreed. What happened? The Muslims kicked out all the rich and prominent Hindus in Pakistan, but in the process of leaving Pakistan, they could only leave with what they could carry. They couldn't take anything with them, and they had to leave their property that their ancestors gave them, right? But most of the people were massacred leaving the country, and they were promised safe passage. You see, so whenever there's a agreement of what's he called ethnic cleansing, where the Muslims only want Muslims to live in their land, and Hindus only want Hindus to live in their land. So any Muslim in India has to go to Pakistan. Any Hindu in Pakistan has to go to India. Actually, there was no massacre of Muslims leaving India. There were only a massacre of Hindus leaving Pakistan. But that leaving means there's a transfer of population, right? But actually it was a massacre. So whenever they say transfer of population, you have to be suspicious of that word, because they're trying to mask the idea that there's going to be a massacre. And that just happened yesterday in Syria, and it happened in India in 1948 when there was.
And how about like the Jews and the
Palestinians?
yeah, didn't they kill them like massacre? Like just town to town kill all the men.
There were small massacres in Israel also. No, this is 1948-49 when Israelis took over Palestine, and they kicked out 2 million Palestinians. I mean, it happens all the time, all over the world. It's not just the Palestinians, not just India and Pakistan. It's not just the Shia Muslims and the Sunni Muslims in Syria. It's happened many, many times in history. Yeah, but they're different sects of Muslims, the Shia and the Sunnis. They've been fighting since Muhammad died, because after Muhammad died, there was a big fight who was going to take over the religion. So this one group said it should be Hazrat Ali, who was the son-in-law of Muhammad. Another group said it should be Abu Bakr or somebody else, who was an uncle of. So the people that backed up Hazrat Ali, they're called Shias, and the people that backed up Abu Bakr, they were the Sunnis. Ever since that time, they're killing each other. Ever since that time, they're killing. Why? Because the Sunnis massacred Ali and his sons, and therefore the Shias, once a year they have this religious festival where the men will walk in a parade and they will flagellate themselves. They'll beat themselves with iron chains and they're bleeding all over, and they're all lamenting the fact that Ali and his sons were massacred by the Sunnis. It's a very, very bloody celebration. And they have the same type of thing in the Philippines every year for Easter. That's today. Huh?
Yes.
Huh? Yeah. Where the Filipinos will reenact the crucifixion of Jesus by actually nailing human beings on crosses. Not just one, there can be many that agree to be nailed to a cross just like Jesus. And they parade them through the streets, and they're bleeding. And then the Shaivites do the same thing, same type of thing in Mauritius, and in South India, when men will carry this big, heavy deity of Durga Mata, and it's pinned onto their body with big pins or nails that go through their skin like this, and they have to walk up a mountain carrying this big heavy deity individually, and they're bleeding the whole time because they have nails and pins in their body holding the deity to their body. So it's not only the Muslims, it's not only the Christians, it's also the Shaivites, Hindus, that do things like this. It's called self-mutilation.
Also, I saw a video, I think it was in India, how there was a big parade, then Indian men would slap their chest, and after them do the parade, the whole chest, all of their skin would be coming off, and their whole chest.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's a parade like that.
They keep on slapping there.
Well then, okay, I'm not sure if they're Hindus then. Are they Hindus?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Another part they do.
Huh?
Some of the parts they do, they put the nails and tongue and they go there, especially Tamil Nadu.
Carrying the deity, especially Tamil Nadu. Yeah, they're Shaivites.
Yeah.
They're Shaivites, you see. So those are not things that we do in Vaishnavism, right? Those are demoniac type of things where you try and what do you call it? Mutilate the body.
Walking in firewood fire.
They also walk on fire. That's another thing they do. Yeah. Actually, I've walked on fire once. Yeah. Then there's a group that does it here in Redmond. Or I don't know if they're still there, but what? Well, it's the way you do it is they have a big, sponge, right? And it's full of water. So you step on that first. And there's a big fire. There's a big fire. It's a long one, as long as this carpet here, right, in the middle. It's as long as that. And there's flames and there's hot coals, wood that's burning hot, red hot, right? And then you sort of psychologically get ready, right? But your feet are, on this like a sponge, a big sponge, right? And then when you're determined to do it. Right? And I did this with one of my daughters. She was only like 10 or 11 years old. She was really afraid. I said, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. So then you just run across. You just run across as fast as you can. And then there's a sponge, wet sponge on the other side also. Right? So you have to be careful not to have like a dhoti on, right? Because the dhoti will catch fire for sure. You know, you have to have like, you know, I mean, girls should not do it with a dress or a sari, you know. So I did that, and then I did it. We did it about 3-4 times. Well, the first time because nothing serious happened. You just get a little bit of burning on the bottom of your feet, you know, but nothing serious happened. So we did it 3 more times, you know.
But why?
Huh?
Why did you do that?
I don't know. It's a stupid thing, you know. Yeah, people are stupid, right? I was also stupid.
In India, it is like a custom to pray the Lordess Kali and Durga.
To protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were praying. Hare Krishna.
Oh, also, like, where my friend lived in, like, Manipur, like, if you do something bad, like, you have to, like, stand in the fire and then, like, vow, like, really quickly vow, I'll never do it again, and then go out.
Yeah, well, that's called the ordeal of fire. That started from the time of Sita, when she voluntarily went into the fire to prove that she never was unfaithful to her husband. But in America and in Europe, whenever a criminal was caught, they gave the criminal 2 choices. If the criminal said, I'm not guilty, I didn't do this, they said, okay, either you go in front of the court, or we'll put you in a fire for like 15 minutes. And if you survive, you can walk away free. So many criminals would agree to go into the fire because they knew they were guilty, right? And they just took their chance. But most of the time they would die in the fire. Sometimes they would come out, but they'd be severely burned. For the rest of their life, they would be suffering, right? And then very few of them came out injured, but not seriously, somehow or other. I don't know how that happened, but most of them died. And by the way, they did this in America also, during the colonial period. It's called the ordeal of fire, yes. O-R-D-E-A-L, ordeal of fire. And it started from the time Sita Devi voluntarily agreed to step into fire to prove that she was never unfaithful to Lord Rama. And nothing burned on her, neither her sari nor her skin, nothing burned. You know. And she didn't just like jump in the fire and jump out. She stayed there a long time. And it was not a little fire, it was a huge fire. But she was born from it. Yeah, that's different. Okay, they're a little late today. So the materialists, scientists, they say that everything comes from inert matter. What does inert mean?
Lacking the ability or strength to move.
Yeah, it's motionless matter. It's basically dead, right?
Also, like,
So, do you think that inert matter can generate life? No. What does Prabhupada say? Life comes from life. And the scientists say life comes from inert matter, death. Yes.
it's like nothing was moving. How did like the Big Bang happen?
Well, this is going to be a nice surprise from you. There was no such thing as a Big Bang. It's just a myth. It's Disneyland, or it's like Mickey Mouse science. When you watch a comic, a comic film of Mickey Mouse, right? Is anything real in that? No. So this Big Bang is a big hoax. Right? If I make a big bang in your kitchen, will it create something or destroy something?
Destroy.
Yeah. So then why should a much bigger bang in the universe create something? The whole thing's a joke. And by the way, I'm writing a whole chapter of this textbook about the hoax of the Big Bang. See, what is it they're trying to do? They're trying to explain the creation of the world without Krishna. But what does Krishna say? What did we learn today? Janmadhyasya. What does that mean? Huh? Krishna is the source of everything's coming from Krishna. They're trying to say everything's coming from a dark hole or a black hole in the universe, and when the entropy of the dark hole or black hole in the universe decreased, meaning when the huge amounts of energy was sucked into this black hole, then there was an explosion called the Big Bang, and everything expanded again. And then due to the law of gravity, creation took place. Did you hear the name of Krishna in that explanation? No. Okay. But what is the reality? Their so-called black hole is Mahavishnu. And there's no Big Bang. It's simply Mahavishnu exhales, and all universes come out of this transcendental body. And there's creation, and all that's explained in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then when he inhales, they all go back into his body. Now, what is going on? What's going on is the first law of thermodynamics. If you ever study thermodynamics, the first law says there's conservation of energy. That means that energy is never lost. It just transforms into matter, and the matter retransforms into energy, but it's never lost. So that is a confirmation that the material creation of Krishna is actually eternal. The energy is eternal. The forms are not eternal, but the energy is eternal. Then there's a second law of thermodynamics, which is about entropy, but the scientists incorrectly explain it. And the truth of the second law of thermodynamics is that there's eternally energy coming into the material universe through the sun. The sun is reflecting the light of the Brahma Jyoti, right, into the universe. And the sun is made up of infinite living entities. And therefore, when it comes in the material universe, it's contained within the Virat Rupa, which is a temporary form of Krishna. So, you have a closed system, it's called the Virat Rupa, but there's infinite energy coming in, and during one material creation, there are three types of destruction, pralayas. There's one destruction during the end of the life of a Manu. It's 14 Manus, so there's 14 destructions during one day of Brahma, and at the end of the day of Brahma, there's another partial destruction. And at the end of the life of Brahma, there's a complete destruction. But destruction means that the energy is there, but the forms are destroyed. So at the end of Manu's, one of the 14 Manu's life, there's a partial destruction of the universe. At the end of Brahma's day, there's almost a complete destruction, going up to the Maharloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. Those remain. And then at the end of Brahma's life, there's a complete destruction. The complete destruction is simply Mahavishnu reabsorbs everything, the jivas and the material energy. But the energy itself and the jivas are never destroyed. So the scientists are trying to explain this with black holes, with entropy, with this thing and that thing. It's all a bunch of nonsense, made up fantasy theories. But the real explanation is in Bhagavatam. Go ahead. Hare Krishna.
So, like the last day of Lord Brahma, like does he leave his body? Like does he?
He goes back to Godhead.
Oh.
And anybody with him on Brahma Loka go back to Godhead.
But isn't like every one of us who Lord Brahma's before?
When you fall down from the spiritual, you start like as Brahma.